春夏季节的加州啊，是玫瑰的海洋。我们不管是在自己家的庭院里，还是在各种的公园里啊，都可以看到怒放的玫瑰。说到怒放，其实一点都不夸张。那么今天我们来到了位于南加州非常著名的 Huntington Library， 而这里的玫瑰园呢，有各种不同的品种。而现在其实我们所看到的玫瑰啊，跟传统意义上的玫瑰已经有了很大的区别。现在很多都是通过了嫁接和混种的方式，让玫瑰花开得更加的艳丽，而让它们的香味也更加的持久。而这其中又有怎样的秘密呢？
My name is Tom Carruth, and I'm the curator of the Rose Collection here at the Huntington Library and Botanical Gardens. So my job is to make sure the collection is vibrant and well recorded, properly labeled and culturally cared for, and that we have a lot of bloom and color for our visitors.
Wow, great. Well, Tom, can you also share some histories about this beautiful rose garden with us?
Our rose garden is over 100 years old. It was 100 in 2008. And originally it was a cutting garden for Mrs. Huntington. She loved big bouquets in the house, and she was kind of nearsighted. So they would cut roses and other plants from this garden for bouquets in the house. There are annual records that indicate as many as 9,000 roses were cut in 1 year just for her and her vases. So the garden began just for that, just for cutting. So it was a mass of pink, a mass of yellow, a mass of red. But in the 70s, the curator decided the garden should become a collection, much as our desert garden is a collection of many species. So he planted the garden in a way that it somewhat represented the history of the rose, which is a very large history and goes back to China in a big way. Over time, we've lost some of that planting, but we do have pockets of the historical planting that are still vibrant and alive and showing people some of the great history of the rose.
Wow, great. It has been over 100 years for this rose garden. Can you talk about some changes during the over 100 years?
You know, different plantings have taken place in the garden, certainly, because being a live collection, things die, things decrease, things get added, new varieties come along. We've changed some of the pathways and the arches. Right now we're restoring some of the fake concrete wood arbors that are also almost 100 years old in the garden. The new trellis has been replaced, the irrigation system is being modified, things get modernized over time, so it's an ongoing project.
Oh, well, how many roses do we have here? How many kinds of roses do we have here?
We have over 1,250 varieties in our collection now, and the oldest variety goes back to 1513. And our newest variety goes to 2019.
Well, can I know during the whole year which season or which month is the blooming season?
For Southern California, we have a long blooming season. So we prune the roses in January. They flush back into flower in late March and April. We've just finished that cycle right now. And they will continue to have color well into early December.
I know you are a rose pro. And you also specific in the hybrid roses.
Correct.
And I want to ask some questions about hybrid roses.
Okay.
And why hybrid roses are more popular than the traditional ones?
The new hybrid roses reach their popularity, I think, for two reasons. One, they bloom more frequently, so they give you more color. They're more naturally vigorous, so they're easier to grow. They're more naturally disease resistant. So that means less problems with the mold and fungus, and they have wonderful fragrance.
How many hybrid roses in our garden?
In this garden, again, it would be roughly that 1,250 figure. Almost all of these are hybrids in this garden.
How to use roses in the landscape?
Roses are easier in the landscape now because there's a whole category called shrub roses. So they're designed specifically for the landscape. They can be low ground covers, they can be taller plants, they can be climbers. But the whole idea of the shrub is that they're naturally disease resistant, that they give you a lot of flower with very little care, and they can tuck into spaces with your other perennials and bushes.
Well, are roses difficult to grow, and how to care the roses plants?
People think roses are difficult to grow, but in our climate, roses are really quite easy. Because of our desert conditions mean we don't fight as many diseases as they might in other humid climates. So it's basically just providing them with enough water and food, keeping the plants deadheaded so they continue to flower, and then pruning them in January. So they can reward you in your garden for an easy 20 to 25 years. So it's a very good buy when it comes to a great plant.
Do you have any recommendations for what kind of roses is maybe very good choice for our, family landscape for the family use?
As far as specific varieties, I would look at something that's a profuse bloomer. So something like Cinco de Mayo, which is appropriate since we're just past the 5th of May, which is a prolific bloomer that requires no deadheading. It keeps its natural habit. Julia Child would be another one that's an easy recommendation to make. You see a lot of iceberg used in Southern California, which is a white prolific bloomer. Those would all be very satisfying.
Oh, well, Tom, how many years have you been in this Huntington Library?
I've been the curator for 5 years now, but I've been a volunteer for 40 years.
Well, you must know a lot of histories or stories about this library.
Some false and some true. No.
Can you some general ideas about history of the Huntington Library or some general information about here with us?
So Mr. Huntington bought the property in 1903, and it was a working California ranch with citrus and avocados already on it. There was over 1,000 acres at that point, but we're down to about 220 some odd acres now. He was an avid collector of artwork and books, so he wanted a home for his books especially, but he was also a collector of plants at the same time. So his passion really led to the development of the gardens as well as to the galleries and to the library.
Well, how many gardens do we have here?
Within the Huntington, we now have about 12 separate gardens, including our newest Chinese garden and also the new California Ranch entry garden.
Well, among all these gardens, I know we have Japanese garden and
Yes.
Chinese garden, and do we have an Australia garden? I think.
There is an Australian garden.
Yeah, and
yes.
which one? I mean, not we are not counting in the roses garden. No, it's always your favorite. Well, which one is, your second favorite one?
My second favorite would be the desert garden. That's an amazing collection. Mr. Huntington's favorite plants were cactus and succulents and palm trees. So we have over 10 acres with some of the finest specimens of cactus and succulents, some of them over 100 years old. Part of this experience at the Huntington is just the beauty that surrounds you within the garden, and that you can walk into the galleries and see beautiful art. You can go into the library and see the Gutenberg Bible and some ancient manuscripts, and you never get tired of it. The only thing I hear bad about our visitors is it's a little longer walk than they might think it could be.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Well, Tom, last but not least,
Okay.
anything you wanted to share with our viewers?
I think basically just to encourage you to come and visit. Please, there's so much to see here, and we have a very rich culture for everyone to enjoy.